The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary-related entertainment.
This is Clint Hansen with Maui Luxury Real Estate by Hansen Ohana with MauiRealEstate.net. You're joining us on 1110 AM, KAOI, 98.7 FM, 96.7 FM. Today we have special guest Byron Yap with American Savings Bank here to talk to us a little bit about new loan programs, the current interest rates, and how home ownership is something that's attainable for you. In addition to that, we'll be going over some upcoming events, some new featured listings, as well as the new statistic release that came earlier this month. Starting with that, let's talk to Byron Yap a little bit about some of the loan programs that are now available for first-time home buyers. And actually, you know, I've bumped into a lot of people who have recently been purchasing, and I've had a couple of my listings purchased as a result of the new county lottery release. Have you had much experience with that, or any of your buyers?
Yes, the county did a program where they were giving a grant away this year, and they had a lottery system, and the county started issuing that money out the beginning of this year, and there's been quite a few successful stories with the county assisting first-time buyers purchasing their homes for the first time. Mm-hmm. So it's been a great program to see, and I hope the county continues to advance it, grow it, bring more on, because that's what's needed in the county of Maui.
A lot of those funds come from some of the development donors, right? I mean, it's a general fund that they come into, and when they created this program, it was to incentivize the first-time home buyers, because that initial, first 3%, 1% is a big hurdle to overcome with Maui's high real estate prices. So it's good to see that a lot of long-time families and Maui residents are finally having the opportunity to own a slice of Maui, which is often, outstressed given the high property prices here in Maui. Of course, there's definitely been a few hurdles to overcome. Again, I haven't repped any particular buyers, but I've been on the seller side, and it was a little new territory going through and working with the county and getting the release. But has there been any major hiccups that you've noticed, just longer delays, or just getting used to the new process?
With the county program, it's a really good program, because what we found out is that usually takes about a week to 2 weeks to issue the money for the purchase, so there hasn't been any major delays or normal things that you expect from a county level grant kind of system. We're seeing it pretty successful, and I think the biggest challenge that's happening right now is for some of the grant peoples to find property that is available for them mm-hmm. within their price range. I think that's the biggest hurdle we're seeing now.
Yeah, I mean, in that beginner price range that, ranges anywhere from $550,000, actually all the way up to $750,000, it's a pretty tight market out there. There's actually not that much inventory at that price point, so it can be a bit of a competition. And then when there's a new influx as a result, there tends to be more demand and then even less available inventory. So it's created a little bit of a feeding frenzy in that lower price point, but at the same time, it's been a wonderful opportunity for people. That being said, there's also, it's a pretty limited allotment. What was it, like 30 people or something like that?
I can't remember the exact number, but they had a total of about 45 days, I think, once they got accepted to choose a property. Mm-hmm. And that's been the challenge, is that finding property in that price range in that short amount of time.
And all those people at once, too.
Yes.
The other thing I was wondering and actually wanted to talk to you about, and I guess it really does depend on a bank-to-bank scenario, but a lot of times, let's say you're getting gift money from family or something along those lines, they're often asking for that money to be seasoned. And I was wondering, when it comes to that initial grant from the county, have you had any of those issues, or how exactly does the bank recognize this incoming cash?
Well, the grant is basically almost like a second mortgage. It stays with the property as long as they own it, and it's only paid back if they refinance and take out cash, or they sell the property. So it's easily, for the first-time buyer, there is no seasoning requirements or anything like that. It comes directly from the county. It's recorded on the title. So anytime any kind of transaction happens, that grant could be potentially due and payable if they sell or cash out of the property for a refinance.
Beautiful. So it's not a gift, because nothing given is earned. It's actually something that they actually put as a lien onto the property that repayment process follows the property indefinitely, and it's not like they can pull that out of a piggy bank when the value of the property increases. I like that.
Yes.
That's fantastic. But besides that, I mean, most people aren't going to be able to qualify or get a grant. Do you have some other loan programs that you think is pertinent to first-time home buyers? Low amount down, things of that nature?
Well, we have the American Savings Bank does offer a promo that we have been having for the last year. It's basically a promo for first-time buyers that allows us as a bank to give them credit if they open a checking account and they put the new mortgage on auto pay. We do have a credit of 0.5 point to first-time buyers. Mm-hmm. And for seasoned buyers who own property already, we do have a 0.25 point. So we're trying to help assist first-time buyers and people that already own. So it's kind of an array of things that we cover at our bank.
All right. So, continuing on from there, if anybody has the fortunate ability to put 20% down, the rates drop dramatically. It, of course, depends on the price range that you're going to be coming into. But one of the reasons I strongly recommend Byron Yap is because he has some of the most competitive rates that I've seen around. Obviously, you should definitely talk to them in person because it really depends on a whole variety. What your debt ratios are, what your current economic status is, how long you've had your job, spousal support, things of that nature. So definitely want to talk to them directly. And this doesn't have to mean you're looking for a home today. It doesn't even mean tomorrow. It could actually be you want to look for a home for next year. And making a decision to buy a home isn't something that, let's go start looking tomorrow. This is a process that takes years to unfold. So make sure that when you go out, the very first thing that you should do is not just talk to an agent. You should actually be talking to a lender. Certainly, if you want recommendations, there's a whole variety of people that we can recommend, but Byron Yap is definitely one of my favorites. Beyond that, I was wondering on the next level of property ownership. I mean, I've had a couple of larger loans go through you, and you've had great jumbo rates. Can you want to define a little bit what a jumbo rate is in terms of the amount of money down and some of the rates that you've been seeing? Obviously, these are just scenarios, and the rate itself depends on a number of factors.
Yes. American Savings Bank does offer a jumbo program, and a jumbo loan is basically a loan amount over $726,525. So with that, basically, with the jumbo program, it's a bank-owned program that we keep the loan as American Savings Bank. We fund it. Different financing scenarios would be, depends on the ownership level of it. Some investor programs may require 30% down. Owner-occupant may require 20% down. Jumbo rates right now, ballpark area, is somewhere around 4% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. And there again, it's dependent on the property.
4%, that's like almost free money. I'm always astonished how low our current rates are. I mean, we had a little spike recently, but it seems to be coming back down given current economic concerns. How have you been hearing what the rates are going to be doing? Because it's always a threat that it might be increasing, and we have seen it rise and fall. But the recent drop, have you had it come in? Because I've noticed the jumbo rate, given that it's typically less risky, is lower than the first-time home buyer rate. More money down, less risk for the bank, and it's a risk-reward basis.
So at the beginning of the year, conforming rates, that's loan amounts anything under $726,525, we're running about 4.625% in that ballpark area. Mm-hmm. Since the Feds announced that they probably would not be raising interest rates throughout the year of 2019, we've saw those rates now come down to around the level of 4.25%, 4.125%. There again, it's dependent upon the buyer's profile, the credits, a number of things. But we've definitely seen the rates move downward, and they've stayed steady in that area too.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to kind of digress a little bit back to the first-time home buyer or the more affordable economic purchases, and a couple of homes that I've been selling recently in the Maui, Lani, and Wailuku area, and tends to be a little bit more of the workforce community, even though I recently read it's one of the strongest locations in the nation for second homes. Unfortunately, that means more competition for our local buyers, but it does help the people who own there get top value for their home. I recently listed a number of properties in the Legends, all around that $725,000 price point. And these are all just kind of estimated numbers here, so you definitely want to talk to a lender about the specifics. And just to follow up on that, I'm actually creating a video, and by the time that this lands, I'll be launching a video, informative video, more graphical, on a step-by-step process of these homes and the difference between renting and owning. One of the things to note, of course, is when you're purchasing a property, it's different than rent. Rent is something kind of just a loss. It's that money goes away. It's not a savings. It's not a write-off. Obviously, there's some additional expenses associated with ownership that goes beyond just rent. But at the same time, a lot of people don't realize that when that money's going out, you're paying down a mortgage. It's like saving for the future. And it's one of usually the best investments that any single person makes in their life is purchasing a home in Hawaii. And that's one of the best things about buying and owning in Hawaii is you're starting at the top of the heap. So when it comes to later in life and you're looking to trade down, maybe purchase somewhere in the mainland, you're buying in a market that's much, much less competitive, because we all know Maui, no Kauai, it's the best place. And there's its pluses and minuses to the cost of paradise. But that being said, it does set you up in the future to, buy a home outright cash by comparative, if of course you've owned the property for a number of years, build up the equity. A lot of factors come into play, of course, with the current values. But that being said, let's say you're purchasing a property like my 72 Papahi. That one went pending after about 5 days on the market. I got multiple offers, and I am allowed to say, and I've gotten written permission from the seller, a full price backup offer. That one's actually due to close here on the 16th real soon, so I'm excited about that. If somebody was to hypothetically put 3% down, which is a much more probable purchase, that's about $21,750 if it was that middle of the road $725,000 price range. A payment, after fees and insurance, is going to be about $39.50. So that's a larger amount, close to $4,000. But if you're going to be comparing that to renting the same exact home, it's going to be about $3,800. 72 Papahi is the most desirable floor plan in the Legends. I actually sold 3 in the last 3 months. I've been fortunate enough to pick up. It's just been luck, I swear. And that floor plan has the master downstairs and then 3 additional bedrooms upstairs. It is 1,900 square feet, the largest floor plan that they have in the Legends. And for rentability, Polykai Realty quoted me at about $3,800 a month. So that's only a disparity, not including taxes and maintenance, of about $150 more. And that's for a relatively low $22,000 down. Both 72 Papahi and my new listing at 45 Makamehi, that property, both 72 and 44 have solar, photovoltaic, and a monotile roof. Photovoltaic being the best part, because your monthly fees, electricity is outrageous here in Hawaii. Again, that cost of paradise, they're shipping the fuel out, and that's going to really cut back on your monthly bills. And if just from a rental perspective, if you're going to be renting a home with photovoltaic, Polykai Realty said that it would be $4,100 a month in rent. Now, if you compare that, even with that 3% down, you come way ahead. I mean, you're saving almost $150 a month, and that's not to continue the savings associated with paying very little on electricity. Now, if you're fortunate enough and have the rare opportunity to be able to put $145,000 down on that $725,000 or 20%, the payment reduces greatly. It's just under $3,000 a month. Again, all these factors, you should be talking to, Byron Yap about what kind of rates he can get you and what your monthly. It changes all the time. These are all ballpark figures. And but that is almost an $1,100 per month savings. Now, one of the things I want to talk about was an amortization table. Now, Byron, that's one of those things you actually can't talk about, right? You actually have to forward them information and actually break down the table, right?
Yes.
So there are a number, and when I pop my video out there, I will be including links. But typically, as a beginning, if you're doing a 3% down, the majority of your payment is going to be going towards interest. Now, there is going to be a small, like a quarter of the portion that's going to be going towards the principal or the loan itself. So if it's a 30-year loan, that means it's paid off over 30 years, and almost half the money that's going out is going to be going towards interest, and the other half is going to be paying off that amount. Now, somebody might get a little upset and say, hey, man, I'm paying all that interest. That's a fool's game. Well, you're throwing that money away anyway in rent. So it makes a lot more sense to purchase. But, and while you should most definitely talk to your tax accountant, in most situations, interest is something that you can write off. So the principal payment is going down. The interest lowers your envelope, your personal liability. So you're having that great opportunity to purchase or have a good write-off. Now, the amortization table, to get back to that, shifts over time. So every single payment, it's like $3 to $5 approximately more goes towards that principal. So every single month goes by, that principal amount, or that amount that goes toward principal, grows by like $5. And then it shrinks from the interest, and that interest gets less and less until about 17 or so years later. It really depends on how much money you're going to put down, of course. You actually are having more go towards paying off the loan than you are toward that interest. Of course, if you have the opportunity to put more money down, like 20%, it totally changes those statistics. When you see that video, it was all based off of the 3% down, given that most home buyers are looking, to put less, not more. For 20%, that $145,000 brings you to that lower payment, and it puts you way ahead. If you go and watch that video, I also talk about some of a lower price property. I sold 209 Alake to some, actually, you were, I believe, the buyer side on that, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so of course we can't get into their personal details, so we're going to come up with some fictitious numbers here. But one of the big pluses with 209 Alake is that lower price envelope means that you have to come up with less money. Now, $18,000 or $19,000 at 3% gives you a much lower payment. You're going to be coming in at about $2,540 per month, and if you were going to be putting the 20% down, or $123,000, that brings you to the $3,357. So yeah, definitely watch that video. I'm still making some edits, but it'll be ready in time, so stay tuned and log into MauiRealEstateRadio.com. Our website, of course, is MauiRealEstate.net. You can get to it through there. Most people love our website because they get to go see the webcam, Charlie Young Beach, the waves crashing. If they're missing home or just want to check out the weather, a lot of people enjoy MauiRealEstate.net's webcam. I've been getting a lot of people calling me, though, and they're shooting emails. Your webcam's broken. Something's wrong. We had a big south swell come recently, and the beaches are a lot washed away. This is Charlie Young. There's still a good amount of sand left, but just bear in mind the fact that the beach is growing back. It's coming. It's still a month or two away from being back, maybe even 3. But do bear in mind that beach will be back, and it's not that something's wrong with the camera. It coincided with an upgrade, too. So we had our webcam down, we had a big south swell, put the webcam back up. It's a totally different picture. There's also statistics that is on that web page. Actually, one of the things I wanted to roll into is the recent release of the 2019 statistics. And there's some definitely big changes in there, but I want to kind of put it into perspective a little bit. Those recent 2019 statistics included a continued drop in inventory and increases in the median prices. Prices for medium homes increased to almost 10% last year to $751,000. There was a dramatic drop, though, in the number of sales. The total sales volume was a 23% drop in that total number of closed sales year to date for 2019, which begs the question if we have reached the top of the market in terms of home prices. A lot of people have been concerned that, prices are going down. I actually find that, almost to be a positive. As a homeowner, I find it as a negative, but it hurts to see people, priced out of the market. And when there's an opportunity for cheaper prices, I get excited. But in this case, I'm not really all that excited because we have now, and even though we have just passed the median housing cost of 2008, what the indicators are for prices in the future is a little bit different, and I definitely want to take this opportunity to talk about Paul Brubaker. He is a true economist. I do have my BS in business management, taken some very preliminary 101 economics classes, so you want to talk to a professional. I'm don't have a securities license or anything like that, but on April 16th for $20, they have tickets to Paul Brubaker. He is there to learn about the fluctuations market and interest rates, how they impact it, discover if there's a recession just around the corner, and learn what factors impact our local and national markets. So we want to discover the opportunities and challenges of market may present in the future. Get there at 9:30 a.m. even though it starts at 10. I would recommend getting a ticket in advance for that very small $20. I'll be there, so you can bump into me, say hi, shake my hand. But that being said, my assumption, my guess, again, I'm not an economist, is that the laws of supply and demand are typically what dictate pricing, and supply have dropped to their lowest levels in over a decade. The health of the market is typically measured in terms of either a neutral market, a buyer's market, or a seller's market. A neutral market is usually about 6 months of inventory, and if we're below 6 months of inventory available to the market, then it is a seller's market. And it's a buyer's market that if it's anything above that neutral 6 month, the intensity of which depends on how far that swing goes. Just to let you know, you determine by how much inventory there is by magically pretending nothing else is going to come onto the market. There's a lot of outside factors there, and how many homes are selling per month, and then if nothing new was to come onto the market, how much time would it take for all the current availability to evaporate? We're doing this one for homes. So to give you some perspective, the height of the inventory availability was in December 2009. It climbed, of course, from 2006 to some mild recession levels. We went from about 6 months or just below 6 months. By the time 2008 rolled around, we were close to 8 months. And then in 2009, right at 2008, that steady incline of everybody panicking on the market with the subprime crisis, we hit almost 18 months of inventory with a median price per home that was at a very low $519,000. It was a pretty dramatic drop. That wasn't the bottom of the market, though. Prices continued to drop to $429,000 in May of 2012. Now, this is not an economic downturn. That was a full-blown crisis. We don't really seem to have any big economic indicators of a crisis coming. Unemployment is very low, and Hawaii is actually some of the lowest in the nation. But getting back to that $429,000 in May of 2012, that was the bottom of the price. Inventory dropped. We actually went from that 18 months down to 10 months. So that was good. That means we had less inventory. The market's getting a little bit healthier. Supplies were decreasing. We're getting to a more neutral market. Prices started to rise from that date due to their current high at the aforementioned $751,000. And current inventory at that and the current inventory as of the recording of this was at an all-time low of 5.5 months. We haven't seen that in over a decade. So it is now most definitely below that 6 month point. We are in a seller's market. Now, seller's market, there's a heck of a lot more competition in that lower price point, the properties that are under $1 million. In fact, under $1.5 million. There seems to be a little bit more of a glut of properties in that $1.5 to $3 million price point. Now, that increase, or that 5.5 months, is nearly a 10% difference from year to date. Condos are even more active, as inventory is low as 4.3 months given the current absorption rates. The current median condo prices are at $525,000, which is actually an increase of 8.3% year to date. The average days on market had a slight increase to 156 days, but that's a far cry from my own personal average. I was actually able to put that Anohuku at 212 Maleholehu home into escrow in about 2 weeks' time, and that aforementioned Legends property at 72 Papahi, I did that in like 4 to 6 days, after negotiations. We put that into escrow. The other Legends at 44 Makamehi, it took us 8 days, but that's because we actually purposely kept it off the market. We wanted to make sure that everybody took a look at it. I produced all sorts of media and information. I'm sure lots of you were inundated with it online. You saw the videos I produced, and that's one of the things I like to do to keep people informed about the properties that we have available. So, anyway, I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of the real estate community and what we do to help foster a community, because real estate is not just about the dirt under our feet, it's the lives we live. RAM, as of May 11th, 2019, at War Memorial Soccer Field, is doing the Presidential RAM Community Foundation Charity Walk. Now, that's a fundraiser to help support young youths going to school, and the Charity Walk actually was founded in 1974 and expanded statewide, and they have, since its inception, had more than $32 million raised for local charities. This particular is going to be going towards school, the Presidential Fund. So that is if you are a student, coming into graduating from high school. I know a lot of you guys have just finished prom. You're going, you've gotten your applications out to college. You're freaking out on how you're going to be able to pay for it. RAM is definitely one of those opportunities that you should be applying for scholarships. And the Presidential Scholarship Fund is, fed primarily by agents. A lot of different agents out there, and you should definitely pick and choose your agents on how they benefit the community, donate to this fund through a variety of means. Some people even dedicate a portion of their funds of every single transaction to the community. Us ourselves, we run our annual charity drive, the Toy Drive. And that'll actually be again this year. Would love to have you come down. The early December, we'll be sending out our invites. You can find it on our website, subscribe to our blog. It benefits Friends of the Children's Justice Center, which is benefits abused and neglected kids of Maui. It's a wonderful program, and there's a lot of unfortunate stories, and while we are very blessed here in Hawaii with very low unemployment rates and low crime, there's definitely situations where people fall through the cracks, and Friends of the Children's Justice Center gets them when they're young, prevents them from going down a path in which there's no return. So please, if you're going to be donating, Friends of the Children's Justice Center is one of our favorites. A lot of times, even the police themselves, the first person they call is, not dispatch, it is Friends of the Children's Justice Center, because they can't release kids that are in abused and neglected situations to grandma and grandpa or auntie unless they have food, unless they have a backpack with additional clothes, books, a bed with sheets, so they're able to stop by. No red tape. Doesn't take months to go through a process. These kids are in a heartfelt bad abuse situation. They can, or just an unfortunate spousal situation where they need to be separated from the home temporarily. There can be nowhere to go. But fortunately, Friends of the Children's Justice Center are there to provide those essential things. And it's not just those bare essentials that they give. There's much more programs that help foster and grow. And that Toy Drive, I think last year it was, $20,000 that we were able to put together, and literally an entire high cube van full of about 24 trash bags filled with Christmas gifts, so that all these children can come in and have a Christmas. It's really heartfelt to see one of these children come in and, they're there and they're like, I got a dolly. It's like, for me, my kids are very blessed, and, a dolly they're very grateful for. But, I mean, for some of these kids, that's the only toy they get. And there's also, one of the children came forward and they were like, oh my gosh, I got to see my brother. They were so excited. Hadn't seen her brother in months. So they provide these activities for kids, education, and a safe environment. I love them, and that's who we put all of our efforts into every year. That being said, I wanted to go back a little bit towards Byron Yap and some of the pluses of working with American Savings Bank. They are a local bank. They have how many locations on island right now?
Statewide, we have 49 branches.
Oh, wow.
And so we have loan officers throughout all the Hawaiian Islands. We only provide financing in Hawaii itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the exact count of loan officers. I think Maui, we have 4 or 5 loan officers dedicated to the whole island.
Mm-hmm.
We finance anything from condo hotels, single-family homes, multi-family homes, and in a separate department do commercial financing too.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back. I think we talk about financing, and one of the things what I really like about our bank is, a lot of people nowadays, they don't understand the importance of credit. So many times, the hardest thing I see when I talk to people is 10 years they didn't focus on their credit. And that's probably one of the bigger things that holds back people from purchasing properties is the credit. I didn't know it till I got into the financing industry. Credit is almost like your birth date, your social security number. It goes with you forever. And I think I wish it would be a little more important to some of the younger kids and some of the adults that they teach their children and anyone that, hey, keep your credit good. Because the most disappointing thing is telling someone, hey, your credit is an issue. But on the positive, we do give, hey, here are some recommendations. There are credit companies that do help the younger people or even the older people to fix their credit, because that is probably one of the biggest driving forces that holds back a purchaser, besides employment, of course, but the credit thing is the biggest obstacle.
And there's a whole number of factors that can affect that. It might not even be your fault. A lot of people are in divorce situations, and they don't realize some debt that was lingering after that whole resolution that's still sticking around. Years later, they'll go apply, and their credit is still hurting. There's definitely processes to amend it, but it's important that you talk to somebody like Byron so you can discover what these things are, so there's no unforeseen roadblocks. You might find that rare property that's your dream home, and you can't get to it because one of these unforeseen liens or unpaid debts that might even have already been paid. So they will help you, hold your hand through that process to make sure it happens. And, there's definitely a few war stories out there of things that come out of nowhere.
And the flip side is also you have people that say, "Oh, I pay everything cash," And so that's the flip side is you got to have credit. If you don't have credit, you can't, unfortunately, function in the financing society.
Yeah.
So I recommend to people, do a whether it's with a lender, any lender, or with someone, do a financial checkup on your credit. You can plan forward, meaning it's not the end of the world if your credit is damaged or has a hiccup in it. I've seen many customers come back year later, 2 years later, and say, "Hey, I fixed my credit." And the best part about it, being in my industry, is seeing them. I think the best stories I have is seeing them come back and then being able to buy something and say, "Okay, this is my home now."
And it is a process, though, right? It's not something that you just go out and buy a home. It's something you work towards.
Yes, and it's not the end of the world, too. If you even with bankruptcy, too, it's not the end of the world, too. Some people think if I file bankruptcy, it's the end of the world to buy something. It's not. It just may take a few more years to be able to do something. But I think the key thing is people try to be blind to their credit, I see, meaning that they don't really want to know what's there. So how can you gauge your future, or how can you do something in the future if you don't really know what's there? So I always advise people, hey, at least come in, sit down, let's look at it, let's figure it out. And we'll give you kind of a roadmap. We can't guarantee it's going to work out, but there's a lot of professionals that can help you, but we can kind of say, hey, here's what you might need to do. And from there, they can seek out professional help and other agencies to help them fix their credit or build their credit.
Yep, and it's just a process. You got to take it, and the very first step is to talk to a local lender. So please definitely go to MauiRealEstateRadio.com and look at some of our associated links. You'll find Byron Yap's contact there. You'll also see that video that we talked about earlier. And I also would love for you guys to give some suggestions about radio topics. I'm a little bit new to this whole process. I'm more of a people person, not a microphone person. And I would love to have some, questions posted from you, the people, so that we can help you purchase a property or talk about upcoming issues of infrastructure and maybe concerns about the expansion of Maui. A lot of people don't realize that Maui's population is actually dropping, and that's because of the high cost of living out here. It's the second year in a row, when these prices go up, it's becoming less affordable. That being said, there are new developments. We are at a pretty significant shortfall of inventory. I believe that Paul Brubaker was saying we have about approximately 15,000 homes that need to be built to meet current demands. I mean, we only have a population of about 120,000 people. Of course, there's a lot of part-time people on top of that, but 15,000 seems like a massive amount of inventory. But if you think of our overinflated price, that makes sense. That being said, we can't even take pace with the current demand. We need to build about 1,000 homes a year just to meet current levels, to keep us flat, stagnant. And we're only able to build about 400. Costs of building are going up, and that's one of the reasons people are actually loving to talk. You get really good values with a developer. The margins are so razor thin, like the Highlands of Kehalani in Wailuku, it's about $675,000. Kahoma Village in Lahaina is $625,000. Hanuakai's final phase, now that's of course more for second homes. That's going to be in that more $1.9 million. If that's actually one of the things that Byron does a lot of, is some of the newer developer ones. Do you want to talk about some of the places that you find yourself sitting and when you'll be there?
Yeah, the new developments that are out there right now are in Kihei. I think it's Kamalani. Kamalani is up there. I'm not sure if they've released their next phases yet or their next parts of it. That's the largest one I think going on in Kihei right now. And then you have I believe. In Wailuku area, you have Kamani, and then that's town development, and they have another one coming up, another development that's coming up. But I do think there's somewhat of a shortage or the speed coming out to be able to develop it. I think what's missing right now is the lower end of the spectrum. Like right now, I believe the only affordable one that real affordable one I'm aware of is Waiale, which they just did their taking of the names. Then they're going to do a lottery system, I believe, coming up. It's kind of tight right now as far as the timeline to put the 1,000 homes out there.
For Kamani, I've actually helped a few people buy in there, and we actually have a process which will help people, buy through me, move for free, and we'll help you get into your home and provide movers with that whole process. I've had many friends and clients that have gone and purchased up there, and in fact, when the demand was at its highest, I camped out there and helped them. I mean, it's really kind of fun because you got to know everybody that was moving into the neighborhood and other buyers that were out there as well. And it was a fun scene. They actually played some movies. Now they're not allowing that anymore. It's kind of a bit of a circus when you drive by every day. But that being said, you can go and put in your name on a list. And, first come, first serve. So you definitely want to call me. Don't just show up there because they won't. It's good to have specific representation. And, the Hansen Ohana has been on island for over 20 years. I've had my license for 17 years. I've been, one of the top 100 agents in the last 3 years. And, in fact, my dad has been, the top 100 agent almost every single year that they've been measuring, and the number one agent on island for the last 4 years. My dad has had his license for 36 years. My mom has had her license for over 40. So if you want a plethora of experience, I definitely recommend you talking with us because we have lots of tools. I mean, buying a home isn't just about finding that perfect place, which we can help you with. It's about the process of coming over here, knowing the right person to talk to about, making some upgraded appliances or where to find good contractors, who's not going to gouge you on painting your house prices. And given that there's such a lack of new inventory, oftentimes people are looking for a home that's a remodel situation so that they can put their sweat equity in and walk away with a good, value if it comes to that resale amount. Just want to talk to you a little bit about the listing side of things. One of the things that we do that's unique, and one of the reasons we're the top agents in Hawaii, and Bob's been number one, even though we work as a team, Bob's been number one more times than anybody else since they've been recording. We do the standard process of list a property, but we do a coming soon video because it's about priming your audience. We have MauiRealEstate.net. We did just create MauiRealEstateRadio.com, feeds into it, and to a specific blog page and has the information that we've been talking about previously. But that coming soon video with the 50,000 unique visitors that come to our website every single month. It is a huge powerhouse. It is more people are on that than just about any other one. Even some of the bigger ones, Trulia. Doesn't matter. We're still on Trulia. We're still on Zillow. But we're kind of like the Facebook of real estate. Most people are using us when they're searching for their property. The good thing about that is we don't require people to log in or anything along those lines, but they're still, dropping their ISP code and, we're cataloging what they're looking at and things of that nature. And that allows us to, unintrusively, direct market to them with these videos. So, they see it in the feed. If they're really looking, if they're really interested, we can laser target those potential buyers. We're not going to be, looking for listings like some of the other firms where we cold call you. I mean, I'm surprised that that's still a thing. There's a lot more tech as opposed to just simply picking up a phone and annoying somebody. It's these days I'm surprised that it's still a process. But when we list it, of course, we're always doing a professional photographer. It's important that your property looks its best. We have an entire barn full of staging equipment. So if you have a property, you need a little help preparing it. That 72 Papahi took me almost 2 weeks to prepare. I cleared out an entire garage full of furnishings, put in art, silk flowers, and that property popped. They said, "Oh my gosh, do we have to sell? It looks so beautiful." But yes, they did. So we got an acceptable offer with them, and it really comes down to, first making the property look presentable, hiring a professional photographer, and I have a number of professional photographers I like that layer photos. The human eye seems so much different, and I'm blown away by some of the agents out there that use their cell phone, and you have bleached white outside shots, that you only see, the inside. What he does is he layers 3 high, low, and medium light ranges and layers the outside so it's even with the inside, and it's more like how the natural eye perceives things. So when you see those shot, the property really pops. But we're well beyond just standard photographs. We actually utilize a Matterport camera. Our office is one of the very few people, and we're the very first to own a Matterport camera. A Matterport actually uses light emitting radar, or LiDAR, to measure every inch of the house as it scans around. It's usually about 150 scans to do an entire home, but it literally creates a virtual model of the home that you can look. And one of the nice things, I've actually helped a lot of people out by giving them the OBJ file, and they can give it to an architect. They can drop it into their CAD program, their computer-aided design, and it gives them a shortcut in producing additions to the home if for some reason they don't have those plans on hand. But it's really fun, and it really helps people understand the property, and it's something that's pretty rare. We own it, and we think it's necessary. I thought it would just help me win listing presentations, but the funny thing is, it's really reduced the amount of revisits to the property over and over, because so many times I have somebody that wants in the property 4 and 5 and 6 times, and it's disturbing the people who are trying to move out throughout the process. So having that is an immeasurably valuable tool. Of course, it's very important for condos as well, because a lot of times you can't get into a place. So we also place it on the Maui Board of Realtors. We custom brochures, accent the property's qualities, obtain title searches because you never know, there might be some hidden liens on a property or some unforeseen finish permits. We go and place it on Realtor Caravan because oftentimes it's other agents, and we foster positive relationships with the other real estate agents that are on island. And when appropriate, there's sometimes it's not possible or just not, a good opportunity. We host after sunset caravans and get the additional brokers that, are too busy earlier in the day to do that general open caravan, and we target them. We give them phone calls. We're like, hey, we know you sell a lot in this area. Please come in. This is a great opportunity. So we host those when we have refreshments for all of it, and we're known for some of the best spreads, so people like to come to ours. Mimosas. Now, email alerts get sent out to all the realtors when we have those professional videos that we like to make. Email notifications to our 13,000 client base. Now, 13,000 seems like a ridiculous number, and when it typically boils down to anywhere from 100 to 50 to 100 people that directly gets marketed to. Of course, there's a lot more people that we don't have their email addresses that are using our website, and that's upwards in the millions, but typically we're tracking at about 100,000 at any given time. Email notifications get sent to top realtors specifically, depending on the location of the property. We place information, and we specialize in internet marketing, which is why our website is number one. There is place information on websites beyond just ours, though, like I've aforementioned, the Trulias and Zillows, and we really know how to work on their analytics so that your property appears as number one. Most people don't do that. They just copy over the pictures that they've taken, but there's a lot of little things you can do to give yourself, unique placement. 90% of the people find the property online, so make sure that you have the best placement if you're going to be listing your home. Of course, we do social media. We do very laser and targeted approaches to this, so it's important that you're not saturating or upsetting people with stuff in their news feed that they just don't want there. Obtain feedback from every showing because that's important. We had a property that was this gorgeous little beach house looking place that was a couple blocks from the ocean, and it was a robin's egg blue. I thought it was adorable, but we weren't getting showings. It just wasn't happening. We took it off the market, painted it, and sold it as soon as it got back on. It only took us about a week and a half, and we got an accepted offer. And that was just that continual setting that we were getting. I'm calling agents, why aren't you showing it? Oh, they didn't want to see it because of the blue color. Well, we're not going to hurt your feelings. We know that you're all grown up, and we're going to give you that honest feedback. We also have a lot of print media. A lot of people say print is dead, and it's not. We're actually on the front 2 pages and the back 2 pages of Homes and Land. We're actually going to be, we have been doing so good selling our properties. I actually produced a video a little while ago. I've been getting rid of all my inventory left and right. We're dropping our back 2 pages of Home and Land simply because we can't fill it up. So I'd love to keep those back 2 pages, so if we can get a few more listings, that would be greatly appreciated. So please visit us at MauiRealEstateRadio.com or MauiRealEstate.net. We also place ads in the local newspaper when appropriate. We're on the bi-weekly Friday special, talk about regular open houses that we do, if that's something that you're into. And we email you those constant updates about the marketing. We're very accountable to the marketing we do, and you can click on the links, see the information that we're producing. We like to utilize licensed professional drone operators to do aerial tours. You know what? Believe it or not, I am actually an FAA certified licensed drone operator.
Nice.
And that's one of the places I actually know Byron from. I initially met him through real estate and the loan process, but we actually became good friends through our mutual appreciation of drones. I started Maui FPV drone racing to kind of learn and gather all the community members of people who like drones. And I was talking to Byron about it. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I love drones, and I got my FPV set up. Now, over time, I've kind of converted more to the photography-based drone, like the Mavics, that are much more easy for a layman to fly. We have, though, some incredible people, some wonderful pilots, some of the world's best, like Ethan Galneck and, Multicopter Maui Dino. He is fantastic. So if you want to go to our Facebook page, Maui FPV Drone Racing, if you're interested, or just want to stop by one of our meet and greets that we do weekly to bi-weekly, we'd love to have you come down if that's a hobby hobby that you want to get into, or your kids are interested, or just want to entertain yourself for the afternoon, we have a blast when we're down there. Byron, you actually want to talk about that a little bit? Some of the things that's very interesting about flying in Maui Lani. You need to have a commercial license in order to be a realtor that flies a drone, even though there's lots that don't. But you want to talk a little bit about the hobby?
Yeah, on the hobby side, there's, I think, active probably 20, 30 people on Maui. Ethan Golnack, who's graduated from high school this year, he was one of the youngest, and I think he's gone to many regional and U.S. championships or events he was in. For a little community, we're doing great, with all the other islands in Hawaii. It's kind of a beautiful thing. I think we had our state championships. We held the first state championships, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 years ago, on Maui, the first one in the state to get people qualified for a so-called world championship. So it's been good, a lot of amateurs, a lot of people enjoying the hobby, and there's an engineering side to it. It's the future.
Yeah, we did it. I've seen a lot of the members have been dedicating their time towards the tech programs and their efforts to the public school system, and really teach people the proper etiquette associated with flying, not just buzzing people's houses, but finding an open park space that's out of air, control, making sure that you stay below the proper altitudes, the difference between what I do, commercial photography and videography, and, what the hobbyists are allowed to do is totally different. So it's important that you educate yourself, definitely show up.
Exactly, for advocacy, for safety, and for the privacy of people. As you do it as a hobby, as we enter this technology area, some people do get offended, and we try to tell people, what it is, what it isn't, and the typical thing has been spying, and most of the people aren't doing that.
Concerns over that.
Yeah, there's a lot of concerns. I think the cell phone provides more spying
Isn't that true?
than the drone. And so it's not a large thing. It's just a fun thing to do in your time off, and introduce more people to it. We've seen a lot of young people. I think one of the exciting things we did, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, we helped with the college engineering program for free on a side basis to help the teacher teach a drone class.
Yeah.
So that was one of the nice things we got to do.
All right. And I do find that, going back to the cell phone, interesting, because I could go to any beach, anywhere, pop out my cell phone, make a slow panning video where I'm standing 10 feet away from somebody and they're in the shot, and I coast over the beach and people are in their bikinis or whatever. And as soon as you pop out the drone, people, get a little flustered. It's becoming a little bit more common. It's not as much of an issue for people, but we always bear that in mind. Most people don't realize when they're, we got the drone in front of us, spying is next to impossible. I mean, it would be a lot easier to use our phone as opposed to a drone that's, flying at 40 miles an hour, at an altitude of 50 to 150 feet. It gets next to impossible to see any kind of detail or spying or anything like that. Nonetheless, we are very conscious of concerns for people. When I fly, I'm talking to my neighbors about, hey, I'm going to have my drone up. Where is it okay for me to fly? And they're aware, and, I try to make sure people understand that when I'm filming their home, there's certain things that are appropriate and certain times that it's not. Regardless, I wanted to talk about war stories. That's my, I want to end it on a note that people find a bit more interesting and just kind of educate you at the same time. Tell me again, if you go to MauiRealEstateRadio.com, some of the things that you want to hear about, things that you want to learn of, and if war stories is something that interests you. One of the things that has happened to me actually a couple of times is, throughout the loan process, they're purchasing a property, and we're going and do their inspection. They're pouring out money for that. They're taking the time. They're doing their loan application, and they neglect to tell their real estate agent, or they neglect to tell their loan officer, I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to buy furnishings. And then they go and do a recheck on their furnishings or on their credit, and bam, they can't qualify anymore because a lot of these margins are razor thin, or it changed the rate. Have you had a few of those happen before?
Oh yes, we have it all the time, and we notify people. I think that's why it's important in the beginning to. I always preach this, and I believe it is to get together with a if you're going to buy in Hawaii, I believe support the economy, support the local realtors, support the local banks. The banks are the ones that are employing the local residents, and they know it better than, say, the big mainland bank. And a lot of times, the big mainland bank may have a somewhat better rate, but come to the end, you may have that issue. And we see it all the time where they don't understand the Hawaii market. And then halfway through, they say, hey, we can't do it because that building is considered a condotel or it's considered something else.
No, Maui Banyan is a perfect example of that. I was talking, and I've sold quite a number of units in there because they're lock-off, so they're incredible income earners. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of two-bedrooms in there for sale right now, but ASB is one of the only banks that can loan in there because while it does have a condotel situation where there's a greeting desk, it has this very rare situation where there's just a couple of units in there that are timeshare. It's not something that's typically a lot of the units. It's what, like a dozen, maybe less than a dozen.
Yep.
And when people are looking on their title searches or their loan application, they can get shut down in the last week or so. I had somebody that was adamant. They were a partner in a bank. They're like, I can get a really good rate. And I'm like, okay, let me talk to the loan officer. Make sure that they talk to the underwriter. I composed an email. I had multiple phone conversations like, are you aware that this is a condotel? Are you aware that there's a few units that are timeshare in there? And she said, yes, I'm very aware. Okay, make sure you talk to your underwriter. She said she did, but lo and behold, a week later, bam, we couldn't get the loan. Fortunately, Byron stepped in and he was able to get that loan hammered out in a very short amount of time. We did have to extend the escrow, but he was a lightning fast to react because he's done quite a few in there. So, yeah.
I think that's part of the problem too. And then you also have a lot of the homes have additions put on that maybe weren't run through the county, an extra room and enclosing of a garage. And that's why I believe whether it's our bank or any bank, so going to a local bank will help you get the best program available.
And I think that's leads me into, again, what kind of topics do you want to see? Building permits is a big one. They actually recently passed a new law here in Hawaii that allows for additional dwellings on residential lots that are over 7,500 square feet. It actually helped me sell my 1051 Kihei Road property because it was on a quarter of an acre. So somebody could actually have not just a main home and an ohana, they could have a main home, an ohana, and another ohana. So that's going to really help people, convert these homes, that were non-conforming to a property that's conforming, where you actually can use those incomes to qualify for a better loan and have, a mortgage that's not so overbearing. It's great to have those renters in place to help bear the burden of the cost of that monthly mortgage payment. I'm Clint Hansen with Maui Luxury Real Estate. But again, come to our website, mauirealestate.net, for a lot of information, statistics, blogs, and our webcam. And one of the best, easiest to use search features that we do not require you to log in. We do have those features where you can create a login. You can have a favorites page and track it. We don't bug you there. We don't take that email address. You have to specifically email us a request for additional information if you want to open a regular contact dialogue. We're not going to be pestering you like a lot of other, websites can have a tendency to do. And again, we don't do those cold calls. So please, also, if you want to follow the blog and go and see that video about the benefits associated with purchasing a property over renting, go to MauiRealEstateRadio.com. That's MauiRealEstateRadio.com. And thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate your time. Byron, thank you for coming in and helping me with this.
Thank you very much.
This is Clint Hansen again with MauiRealEstate.net, the Hansen Ohana, Maui Luxury Real Estate. You're tuning in to KAOI, 1110 AM, 98.7 FM, and 96.7 FM. Aloha, and have a wonderful day.